The boardroom fell silent as I clicked to the final slide of my presentation. The new budget numbers glowed on the screen, and I watched Karen's face transform from smug confidence to pure horror. Her perfectly manicured nails dug into the conference table as she processed the $5,000 increase in HOA fees, staring back at her. "What is this?" she shrieked, her voice climbing octaves with each word. "Who authorized this outrageous increase? This is completely unacceptable." I adjusted my tie, savoring the moment I'd been planning for weeks. "You did, Karen," I said with a calm smile. "The moment you fined me $1,000 for swimming in my own lake." Let me back up and explain how we got here. Karen's war on water. My name is David, and I've lived at Willow Creek Estates for 15 years. When I bought my property, the main selling point wasn't the 4-bedroom colonial or the 3-car garage. It was the pristine 20-acre lake that came with the deed. Crystal Lake, as the original owners named it, sits partially on my property and partially borders the HOA community. For over a decade, this arrangement worked perfectly. Neighbors would wave as I took my morning swims, and occasionally I'd even let the HOA host their summer picnic on my section of the shoreline. Then Karen became HOA president. You know the type. She showed up to her first board meeting with a leather-bound notebook, color-coded tabs, and a mission to bring order to the chaos. Within her first month, she'd issued 17 warning letters for infractions ranging from mailboxes being 2 inches too tall to grass being half an inch too long. She carried a ruler in her purse, an actual ruler. The trouble started on a beautiful Saturday morning in June. I was doing my usual swim, floating on my back and watching clouds drift by when I heard that unmistakable shriek from the shore. Excuse me, sir." Karen stood at the water's edge in her HOA blazer. Yes, a blazer. Despite the 90 heat, waving a clipboard like a battle flag. "You need to exit the water immediately." I swam closer, though not too close. Something told me she might try to citizens arrest me. "Good morning, Karen. Beautiful day for a swim. Swimming is strictly prohibited in community bodies of water," she announced, reading from her clipboard. HOA Regulation 7.3.9 clearly states that all recreational water activities require board approval and proper insurance documentation. I treaded water, genuinely confused. "This is my lake, Karen. I own it. Check the property records." She adjusted her oversized sunglasses, the kind that scream, "I need to speak to your manager." The HOA governs all shared natural spaces within our community boundaries. This lake borders HOA property. Therefore, it falls under our jurisdiction. "That's not how property law works," I said, starting to swim back toward my dock. "We'll see what our lawyers have to say about that," she called after me. "Consider yourself on notice." I figured that would be the end of it. Surely once she actually looked at the property lines and deed restrictions, she'd realize her mistake, but I underestimated both her determination and her ability to twist reality. The $1,000 FINA certified letter arrived the following Monday. Official HOA letterhead. Naturally, it detailed my blatant violation of community standards and assessed a $1,000 fine for unauthorized use of community resources. 3 pages. Made up regulations. Threats of legal action. The works. I tried the reasonable approach. I made copies of my deed, highlighted the sections clearly showing my ownership of the lake, included the original survey from 1952, the water rights documentation, and even a letter from the previous HOA president acknowledging my private ownership. I hand-delivered it all to Karen's house. She answered the door in another blazer, this one pink, as if she had a whole closet dedicated to HOA fashion. "David," she said, not even looking at my documents, "the fine stands. The board has spoken." "The board?" I asked. "When did the board meet about this emergency session?" She said with a smile that didn't reach her eyes, "We take safety violations very seriously." I later learned that this emergency session consisted of Karen and her closest allies meeting at Starbucks. The letters kept coming, one nearly every day, each more threatening than the last. She filed complaints with the city, claiming I was creating an attractive nuisance. She started a whisper campaign among the neighbors. Mrs. Henderson from 2 doors down actually asked if I was planning to open an unlicensed water park. That's when I decided to stop playing defense and start playing offense. The easement exploitee spent the next 2 weeks buried in HOA documents, bylaws, contracts, agreements going back 30 years. And that's when I found it, the smoking gun. An easement agreement from 1998 that allowed the HOA to use a portion of my property for maintenance. access to their section of the lake. The agreement included rights to the small beach area where they held community events, and a gravel road their trucks used. The kicker? The agreement expired after 25 years, unless formally renewed. It was now 2024. Nobody had remembered to renew it. I verified everything with my lawyer, who actually laughed when I explained the situation. So she's fining you for using your own property, while her organization is technically trespassing on it. He asked, "This is going to be fun." I waited until the next HOA board meeting to drop the bomb. These meetings were Karen's pride and joy. She ran them like congressional hearings, complete with a gavel sheet bought on Amazon and strict Robert's Rules of Order. I signed up for the public comment period and waited my turn. When she finally called my name, her tone dripping with disdain, I stood up with my own leather folder to play the official documentation game. "Thank you, Madam President," I began, matching her formal tone. "I'm here to discuss the expiration of the easement agreement between the HOA and my property." The room went quiet. Karen's gavel hand twitched. "As you may or may not be aware," I continued, pulling out copies for each board member, "the HOA has legal access to the northern section of Crystal Lake, including the beach area and maintenance road, expired 6 months ago. I've been tolerant of the continued trespassing, but given recent events, I feel it's time to formalize a new arrangement." Karen's face had gone from red to white to a shade of purple. "I didn't know it was possible. This is ridiculous," she sputtered. "We've used that access for decades, without legal authorization for the past 6 months," I clarified. "My attorney has drawn up a new lease agreement. The terms are quite reasonable. The HOA can maintain access for the low annual fee of," I paused for effect, "$5,000. The gasp from the audience was audible. Someone's coffee cup clattered to the floor. $5. Zero. Karen shrieked. "That's extortion. That's market rate for lakefront access." I replied calmly. "I had 3 commercial real estate agents. Provide comps. If anything, I'm giving you a discount. Of course, you're welcome to decline and lose access entirely."